Daf Samachay Amud Beis, 4 lines from the top. We learned previously we had a machloikes between Rav Meir and Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov regarding the din of a nochri, in what manner the nochri asers a yid from carrying in the chotzer. Normally speaking, a yid is living in a chotzer. If there's 2 yidden or more, he cannot carry from his house into the chotzer unless they make eruv chatzeres. They have to make an eruv together, joined together. The Chachamim answered it because carrying from a house, private ownership to a ownership in common, has an appearance of carrying from a shusiyach to shusarabim. So we make an eruv and eruv chatzeres to join it all together. So it's all considered to be residence of in one common residence. They're all living together, and it does not have that appearance. Nochri, he does not consider, he's essentially, Maker Din is not considered to be that he has a dir, that he has a residence. So he's not considered to be another resident, and Maker Din, therefore, you should not have to make an eruv chatzeres. The Nochri should not aser a yid from carrying his house to the chatzer. However, the Rabbanan made a takana that the Nochri will aser the yid, because we don't want the Nochri the yid to live together with the Nochri. And the Chalser Shema Yomi Masechet, he might learn from his ways. So the machlokes is to what extent, in what circumstances they were guys. Rav Meir says even if it's 1 yid living with the Nochri will aser. Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov says it's only if it's 2 or more that will aser. 1 yid living into Nochri together alone is not shchiach, it's not common, because he'll be afraid to live with the Nochri. So therefore, Masulei shchiach, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says they were not geyser. So now we have the following scenario. Amar Rav Yirmiyah Rav Yisrael Nochri b'pnimis v'Yisrael b'chatzayna. Well, let's say you have 2 chatzeres, one behind the other. In the inner one, there's 1 yid and 1 Nochri. In the other one, there's just a yid. Now, if the residents of the inner chotzer have to pass through the outer one to get to the Rishus HaRabim, so they have a right of way. So they can pass through to get there to the Rishus HaRabim. So do we say in this case, the Nochri in this case, does he aser or not? So Yisrael Nochri v'nei Yisrael b'chitzayna bo ma'isa lifnei Rebbe v'aser. And Rebbe said in such a case, it's also for the yid in the other chatzer to carry from his house into the chatzer. The drisus haregel from the inner one coming through the outer one will aser it. So therefore, the Nochri, who has a right of way and can pass through the outer chatzer, is considered therefore like the Nochri is living in the other chatzer, in the outer chatzer, or that he's a resident there, and therefore he will aser it. So it's also unless he is seicher, he rents the rights from the Nochri. So he bought lifnei Rebbe v'lifnei Rebbe Chia v'aser, and similarly Rebbe Chia also asered it. Yosef Rabbi Rav Yosef b'shel prikad Rav Sheshes, v'Yosef Rav Sheshes v'Kawam Rav Sheshes sat with him and said, "Kaman Amar Rav L'Shmaitza." According to whom does the Shmaitza go? That it's also is Rav Meir. It follows the opinion of Rav Meir that says that even one Nochri with even 1 yid, the Nochri will aser it. Karkish Rabba Reisha. And he nodded, Rabba nodded in agreement. That this l'chera is, according to the Shita of Rav Meir, this is the Shita of Rav Meir, that even 1 yid, the Nochri will aser it. So in the outer chotzer, there's 1 yid, therefore the Nochri will aser. Amar Rav Yosef, Trey Gaber Rabban, Rabbanan Lita behind Milsa, 2 great people like this, Rav Sheshes and Rabba, make such a mistake. Ik Rav Meir, Lamali Yisrael b'chitzayna. If it's according to Rav Meir, what's the significance of that the Yisrael, the Yid, is in the outer chotzer? Simply in the inner chotzer itself, if there's a Yid and there's a Goy, so that'll be also to carry. Maybe you say perhaps really it's not necessary in this case. But that's the Ma'aseh Shohaya. The Shaila came up. It happened to be that there was a Yid and a Nochri in the inner one. There was a Yid in the outer one, and that's the Ma'aseh Shohaya. But in Chanami, perhaps even without the Yid in the other one, in the outer one, it also would be also. Where it says, no, they asked the Shaila from Mav, and he said, what is the din, the status of the Yid in the inner Chaser? Is he allowed to carry or not? And he said it's mutter. Now, if we're going according to the Shita of Meir, that the guy asers even on one Yid, the Yid in the inner Chaser should also be aser. So apparently we're not going according to the Shita of Rav Meir. So what is the explanation of this case? Ve'elamai, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Elamai, you're going to say it's going according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Well, if that's the case, how could this work out? How do we understand this? Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said that the Nochri only answers if there are two Yidden. That the two Yidden answer each other, then we take into account the Nochri as well. And then you have to be Seicher from the Nochri. But if you don't have two Yidden who answer on each other, then the Nochri is not a factor. Now, in this case, we have the Yid in the outer Chaser, and we have the Yid in the inner Chaser. So the Yidden don't answer on each other, they're in separate Chaseres. So as far as the inner Chaser, the Nochri shouldn't answer, it's only one. It's only one Yid, and the outer Chaser, there's also only one Yid. So why should we say that it's also? Why do we say that the Yid in the outer Chaser cannot carry from his house to the Chaser? Rabbi Kiva, perhaps you say we're going according to Rabbi Kiva. Perhaps you'll say that we're going according to Rabbi Kiva. Now there's a machlekes Rabbi Kiva and Rabbanan. In a similar case, a case like we have here, you have two chatzeres, one behind each other, so the inner one has right of way, he has the right of passage, the right of way from his chatzer through the outer chatzer to the Rishus HaRabim. How do we view the fact that he can walk through the chatzer? According to Rabbi Kiva, he says the fact that he has the right to walk through the chatzer, that he has the right of way, we treat him like a resident in the outer chatzer. So therefore, perhaps you'll say we're going according to Rabbi Kiva, that since the Yid in the inner Chaser has the right of way, has the right to walk through the outer Chaser into the Rishus HaRabim, it's like he's living in the outer Chaser, so it's like you have two Yidden in the outer Chaser. According to the Rabbanan, they say, no, the fact that he has right of way, that does not make him a resident. According to the Rabbanan, they say, if somebody cannot carry, if in the inner Chaser, that you had two Yidden, and they therefore could not carry from their house to the Chaser without an Erev. If there was no Erev, so they're also to carry in their Chaser, so it's a regular Asura, then it's Asura Soisere Shalevi Mekaima, their right of way will answer in the outer Chaser. But if they are mutter to carry in the inner Chaser, if there is only one Yid, or if there's an Eruv, then according to the Rabbanan, the right of way will not answer the outer Chaser. They're not considered to be residents of the outer Chaser. But Rabbi Kiva says even if they are allowed to carry in the inner Chaser, nevertheless, the right of way that they have the right of passage to the outer Chaser considers them like a resident in the outer Chaser. It's like they're living there, and like you have two more Yidden in a Chaser, you have to make an error. So perhaps you say that we're going according to Rabbi Kiva. And that's why the outer Chaser is also, well, if that's the case, frankly more, Lamli Nachra, Fil Yisrael Nami, then the Goy's presence, the Nachri's presence over here is irrelevant. Then it's irrelevant, even if the Nachri was not in the inner Chaser, the fact that the Yid has the right of passage to the outer Chaser, that should require an Erev. So why do we have the case? Why is the Nachri brought into this case? L'chera, it's totally irrelevant. Amar Rav Yeshua, La'ilam Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Rabbi Kiva. We're going both according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov and like Rabbi Kiva. It's following both of the shitas. We're talking in the case over here where there was an Erev, the inner Chaser and the outer Chaser. The Yidden made an Erev one with each other. There's an Erev. So they made an Erev together, and since they made an Erev together, therefore they normally would not be Aser, and they would not Aser on each other. So the time at the Ikan the reason why it is also over here is because there's a Nochri. Only because there's a Nochri in the inner Chatzah. So, but therefore, it's going according to Rabbi Kiva, and since there's a Nochri in the inner Chatzah, the Nachri will aser. There's two Yidden over here. They made an Eruv together. There's two Yidden over here. The Nachri will aser, and now they have to deal with the Nachri. You have to be Seichem Ekayma. Avalech Nachri lo yaser. But if it wouldn't be for the Nachri, there would be no Isser. Now, it's going according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Therefore, in the inner Chotzer, the Nachri doesn't aser on its own, because it's only one Yisrael. But the Yisrael made an Eruv with the outer one. Since they made an Eruv with the outer one, and the Nochri is in the inner one. Now, if it wouldn't be for the fact that the Nochri is there, then there wouldn't be a problem, even according to Rabbi Kiva, because they made an Eruv. They joined together in an Eruv. But since the Nochri is there, the Nochri, therefore, asers, because there are two Yidden, so it's like two Yidden in the Chotzer, the Nochri asers, and therefore you have to be Seichem Ekayim. If it wouldn't be for Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, then even without a Yid in the outer Chotzer, one Yid would aser. If it wouldn't be that we're going according to the sheet of Rabbi Kiva, then it also wouldn't aser, because the inner Chotzer is a regular Hamuteres. According to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, then if it's only one Yid, there's no Isser. But since we're going according to Rabbi Akiva, even though in the inner Chotzer the Yid is allowed to carry, because the guy won't aser, he's only one Yid, and even though we're going according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, but we're going according to the sheet of Rabbi Kiva as well, that even though it's a regular Muteres, he's allowed to carry in the inner Chotzer, but since they join together with an Eruv, there's two Yidden over here, therefore the Goy will aser. So the right of way, the right of passage through the outer Chotzer, therefore will aser the outer Chotzer, and he cannot carry from his house into the Chotzer. Boy, Minei Rabbi Eliezer Mirav. He has the following: Yisrael v'Nochri b'chitzayna, Yisrael b'pnimis. Well, let's say we had the reverse case. Let's say we had Yisrael v'Nochri b'chitzayna. In the outer one lived Yisrael and the Nochri. Yisrael b'pnimis ma'u, and the Yid was in the inner one. So, what about in such a case? What would we say in such a case? How would we view it in such a case, l'gabe the din of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov? Now, we said before, as we learned, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov holds if there's only one Yisrael with the Nochri, then it's mutter. The Nochri is not a factor, because that's a milsa d'loishchiach. It's not common for the lone Yisrael to live with a Nochri. And so therefore we didn't have to make the dakan. Essentially, the Nochri's residence should not aser. It's not considered a dira. And therefore it should not require chatzeres. However, since we wanted to deter the Yisrael from living with the Goy, Shali Elam and Masav, therefore we said that the Nochri asers. But according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, that's only in a case where it's common, where it be two or more Yidden living with the Nochri, but not if there's one. Now, how would we view it in this case over here? Mishum d'shchicha d'darim. Now, in the previous case, where we said that it is considered like there's two Yisraelim, and therefore the Nochri asers, that is over there because it's considered common. It's considered common in such a case. You would have a scenario like that. It would be common that you'd have a Nochri and a Yisrael in the inner one, and a Yisrael in the outer one. Why is that? The Mir is Nochri because the Nochri will be afraid to harm the Yid. Why is that? Some are hashtas Yisrael normally, because if he kills him, he'll be afraid, because maybe the Yid will come in and ask where is your neighbor? Where's the other Yid? Yisrael the Yid that was with you, where is he now? So he'll be afraid to harm him. But over here, perhaps he won't be afraid, because if the Yid who's in the inner one by himself, he comes to the outer one and he asks, where is the Yid that was the Yisrael that was with you? He'll simply say, he went out, he left. So therefore, perhaps in such a case, therefore, they will say that the Yisrael will not want to live with the Nachri in the outer Chaser. He'll be afraid to, so therefore it's a milsa lo shchich. It will be considered not a common case, and therefore, according to Rabbi Ben Yaakov, the Nachri shouldn't answer. So perhaps no, the Nachri would be afraid in this case, because he'll be afraid to harm him because he thinks at any time, at any moment, the Yisrael that's living in the inner Chaser could walk through and see him, that he's harming him. So he'll be afraid to do it. And therefore, since he'll be afraid to do it, and therefore, it is a more of a common scenario. Maybe they will live together in this type of situation, and therefore it's not uncommon. Therefore, the Nachri should answer. He said, give chachma, give wisdom to chachma to a wise man, and he'll get even wiser. Meaning, just like we say that the Nachri answers in the previous case, he also answers in this case. Just like that case was also. It follows in the same way. It follows in the same mahalach that this should also be aser. That we will say that in this case over here, it's considered like it is two Yisraelim and it asers. They went to a certain inn. And they went into this inn, and they joined in an Erev, but the Nachri, he rented this house. And the Nachri, who was a tenant, was not present, but the landlord was present. But he was also a Nachri. But the landlord was present, but the Nachri that rented it from this landlord, he was not present. So therefore, they had a shaila that can they have to rent the rights of the Nachri, because there's a Nachri here. Can they rent it from the landlord? Or do we say, no, they have to rent it from the tenant, from the Seicher, and he's not present, and therefore they cannot carry. So they ask, is it mutter to lease it from the landlord? So we say as follows: where the tenant has the rights and the landlord cannot evict him, so he has strong rights. Then it's not a shaila. You cannot rent it from the landlord because the landlord is not considered to be the owner or the resident, and therefore it has to be rented from the tenant. The question is where the landlord does have a right to evict him, where he has a right to terminate the lease. That's a shlamai. Do you say since the landlord has this right, so therefore we say he controls it, and therefore we can rent from him? Or perhaps, but in the meantime, however, he has not terminated, he has not evicted him, so we can't. Amr Lahan Reish Lakish said Niskar, let us rent it from him. Well, in the meantime, let's be Seimech that it's a Suffolk Erev Lakil. In the meantime, we can rely on that and rent it and carry. And when we get to our Chaverim Shabbaton, our Rebbeim in the south, we'll ask them. Also, Shaila Rav Afas Amr Lahem Yafas Yisum Shizachatan. You took Paskin correctly. It was correct that you do have the ability to rent it from the landlord.